I'm usually on here like, okay, we're live now. Yeah, how you doing, man?
Doing great. How are you?
Good, good. How's your week been?
Week's been great. Um, with the exception of my mother going into the hospital, but emergency room. But other than that, been a good week.
Okay. Well, that's cool. That's cool. Same here. Had a pretty decent week. Gonna end it out date night. I think we're gonna go jump on the trampolines or something like that. It's like
It's
a
always
place.
good. It's always
Huh?
good. Always sow those seeds into your marriage.
Yeah. So,
It's always a good thing to do.
yep. So we're gonna find something to do tonight, and usually my wife pick the stuff out. I just, I do too. Actually, I had a great one planned for her. But it's a bit too cold outside. We were gonna go horseback riding in Shelby Farms at sunset, but it's gonna be
Okay.
cold, so it's too cold for that tonight.
Have you been horseback riding before?
No, I've never rode a horse in my life. I rode a donkey.
Actually scheduled. I think I mentioned the cruise I'm going on in April. One of the excursions that we're doing from the cruise is horseback riding on the beach.
Oh, going in the
So
water.
it'll be my first time horseback riding. I don't know if that's really a good thing to do, but we'll find out.
Yeah, I've never been on a horseback. I've rode a donkey before. I grew up with donkeys, so but I never been on a horse. But yeah. Hey man, but thank you for jumping in here with me. I really appreciate it. So just tell folks who you are, um, and then we'll jump into a few questions and get out of here pretty quick this evening.
Okay, great, great. So Kelvin Martin, CRA, mortgage banker, mortgage loan officer with First Horizon Bank. Been in the mortgage banking business for a little bit over 30 years. I kind of specialized in CRA, which is community reinvestment, to service people with low to moderate incomes and properties in low to moderate census tracts. But I can do mortgage financing for all levels of clientele, whether it be conventional loans through Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, FHA loans through the Federal Housing Administration, USDA loans, which is basically for rural housing on the outskirts of a city, and VA loans for veterans, which is one of the topics we'll cover today. I am a combat military veteran, United States Marine Corps, and one of the things we have here at First Horizon for veterans is something called Salute to Service, where we waive our largest fee for doing a mortgage loan. We waive that fee for veterans, which is our administrative fee. We waive that for all veterans that we do the VA loan for.
Okay, cool. Well, yeah, actually, before we jump into loans and stuff, I actually did want to talk to you about your service. First of all, thank you for your service. Really, really appreciate you. I know it's it's one of the greatest things you can do for your country is serve. So thank you very much for your service. What are some of the things that you've learned when you were in the Marines? And do I say that right? Saying in the Marines? I got to make sure. Is that correct? Saying
Yeah,
it that way?
that's actually proper terminology. Yeah, so some of the things I learned when I was in the Marine Corps, I learned to really develop my focus, where if I set out a goal for 6 months from now or 1 year from now, I learned higher levels of discipline and responsibility to obtain those goals. So my level of focus and discipline increased. Because when you're in the Marine Corps, they don't like a bunch of excuses. It's either you're going to accomplish it, you're going to do it, or you're not, and then that can become a problem. And in some cases, lives can be at risk. So it's really, really big to be able to focus on the task at hand, and be able to maintain your discipline and higher levels of responsibility to be able to accomplish that goal that you set out to obtain.
Okay, cool. And other than the loan, which most people are aware of, what are some of the great benefits that you've earned by being a member of the military, being a veteran?
So, I, first of all, I can talk about this for hours because I'm Marine Corps. My wife is Navy. She was an air traffic controller, so she was in the air tower. When you go to the airport, helping the pilots to land planes. So she was an air traffic controller. My son is in the Air Force right now. He's a staff sergeant, and he's been in the Air Force for about 14 years. His wife has also been in the Air Force for 14 years. And then my daughter is married to an Army captain. He's a medical doctor. So we have Army in my family, my daughter's husband. We have Air Force, which is my son and his wife, both been in the Air Force for 14 years. My wife is Navy, air traffic controller, and I was Marine Corps. So we have pretty much all the branches covered except for the Coast Guard. Now, the benefits of military is, oh man, it's so many different benefits. Free healthcare pretty much for the rest of your life, which means you can elect to use your employer's insurance or go to the VA for services because you're a veteran or you served in the military. Various life insurance that you can receive also from being with the military, discounted life insurance. If you suffered any type of anything in the military, you're eligible for VA disability compensation. So if you suffered from PTSD, if you suffered from sinusitis, tinnitus in the ears with your ears ringing, even sleep apnea, anything that you happened to you while you were in the military, you're eligible to file a claim for VA compensation for VA benefits. So if you're awarded that compensation, that compensation is paid to you for the rest of your life. I mean, every month you're going to get compensated depending on the rating that they give you. The ratings range from 10 all the way to 100, 10, 20, 30, 40, it's in 10% increments. But if you're awarded that, that VA compensation will be paid to you for the rest of your life.
Okay, yeah, that's awesome. And for folks who don't realize it, my son actually he's currently in basic training in the Navy right now. So I'm definitely, once he get into all the probably definitely have him reach out to you to learn about some of the things that he might not be aware of while he's in and after he leaves. So again,
yeah, it's a good starting point. If you're not sure about going to college or you're not sure about what career you want to do, joining the military can be a very good avenue to kind of put you on some path and some level of direction. Also, there's, the military GI Bill, which allows you to go to college for free and get all your student loan debt completely paid for. So the benefits for being in the military are on and on. A lot of times people think that when you join the military that you're going to be in some type of combat situation and you have the possibility of being killed, but that's not always true. My wife's nephew, he's in the Air Force and he's in cybersecurity. And that particular job title is that particular job title is basically non-deployable. So because he works in cybersecurity for the Air Force, he can't be deployed. There are so many jobs in the military that you can get where you will not be deployed, regardless of what conflict you have. I was in intelligence and I was in administration. So I got deployed, but I was not on the front lines, in a position for me to be, right, shot and killed or bombed and things like that. So it's not always a situation where you're going out into the field with a weapon or a gun. There are multiple jobs in the military that if you score well on the ASVAB, then you can get a job that is non-deployable.
Okay. Yeah, I think a lot of time it's just like stuff like the FBI. People only know about the FBI people we see when they have the thing on the back say FBI raiding somebody's house. But For example, there's so much more than just those people. They are just a very small percentage. Same thing in the military, a lot of support and all kind of stuff that goes on. So, hey, today our goal was to just talk about military benefits and loans and stuff, but I'll be remiss if I don't ask, as a veteran yourself, with the situation going on right now, what is your take on where we are in terms of the military being where we are today? Obviously, it'd be,
Yeah, so
you probably have a better what I'm looking for, a better insight into what's going on than me, who never saw really military, compared to somebody like yourself who've done it before.
sure. So my son-in-law, who's married to my daughter, he's an Army captain. He's a military doctor. He just came back from deployment from being over there. So he was in Erbil, which is an area close to Iran. He was over there for like 7 months. And then my actual youngest, my only son, my biological son, he was over in Doha, which is close to Qatar. So they both have been deployed over in that area. As far as my opinion on it, I hate to say it, but I think it all centers around the oil. And I think it centers around the money from the oil. I do know there's some topics regarding the Iranians and their leadership desires, but I'm not really informed in that level on that area. So it's kind of hard for me to say. I do know that when you go off to war, because I've been to war twice, I was in the war in Panama in 1989 with Noriega, and I was in the war in Desert Storm, Desert Shield with Saddam Hussein in 1990, 1991. And when you go to war, it's life, like it's hard to explain, but it's really dangerous. It's really ugly. Your accommodations are nothing. I basically lived in the desert for 7 months. I would take a shower on a sandbag with a mopping bucket. I would get a box. We would get our food, it's called MREs, which is pre-ready-made meals. And I would line that box with a trash bag, and I would fill the trash bag up with water, and I would wash my clothes with detergent in 2 different boxes with the trash bag, and then I would lay my clothes on the side of the tent to dry. You're living off the land completely. Some of the food that I ate was extremely undesirable. Tomato paste and corn, a few chunks of beef, some celery just thrown in a pot and just kind of served to you. There are no cold beverages because there is no refrigerator when you're out in combat like that. So you have to drink everything at room temperature. A lot of Spam, a lot of sardines, a lot of cans of tuna, Vienna sausages, stuff like that. You're away from your family. You don't know sometimes if you're going to make it from one day to the next. It can be very challenging mentally. Fortunately, my mom, she's in the hospital right now, but I love her to death. She introduced me to God, Jesus Christ. So I lean towards my faith for my strength, and believe that I was going to make it through it and make it home safely. So I just had that optimistic, positive outlook, and it kept me with my head on straight. But you see a lot. Some guys, they break out with rashes, and they have to be medevaced out, helicopter. It's a lot of things you see. There's a lot of rats and rodents, scorpions, snakes. You just you come across a lot. So there's a lot of elements to war that people probably never even think about or can relate to. But those guys, when they're in those conflicts, they're really being tested physically, mentally, and emotionally, especially if they have a wife or children. They're being tested in ways that words cannot really explain. So my heart goes out to them and their families, because I can relate. I can relate to the seriousness of it. And The one thing I will say, and this right here is the most important thing, is when these young men and women are being put out to war from people that have no experience with it and they've never been in those capacities of life, sometimes there's a lack of emotion there, and lives are at risk. So it's a serious matter. If you're not necessarily going through it, you don't know how serious it is for them.
Right.
And sometimes when they come back from these combat situations, they're never the same because of some of the experiences that they go through. And God forbid they face, military accidents where they have a leg blown off or they have an arm blown off, or, they're shot or shrapnel or things like that happen. So it's a serious matter. It's not something to be played around with. I recently saw a video of it where it was like a little war game or something, which I was highly offended by that because of what I've actually lived through. I was in the jungles of Panama for 7 months, and I had to guard a radio tower at one point, and bats would be swooping down over my head at night, attacking me. But that video makes it seem like it's a little game like Call of Duty or something like that. And it's way more serious than what is being portrayed out there. And only the people that experience it, that have been in the military, that have had some combat experience, can honestly relate and, and understand it.
Yeah, listen, I will never understand it because I've never been there, would never be there. So thanks to everyone who's serving right now and all those who have served. We really appreciate it. But let's talk about VA loans. So what exactly is a VA loan, and why is this such a powerful benefit for military, for those who qualify for this benefit?
So the number one unique factor that stands out about a VA loan is it offers an American citizen, and in some cases, depending on if you have various, other qualifications, 100% financing. So you get to buy a home with no money down. Also, the VA loan is typically going to have a slightly more favorable interest rate, even though you're getting 100% financing. So that's the biggest highlight to the VA loan. People can basically purchase a home with 100% financing. Now, the veteran still has to credit, income, and debt ratio qualify, meaning your credit score still has to be, decent, preferably over 620. You still have to have gainful employment or some source of income where you can verify that you're able to pay the monthly payment for the house within a certain debt ratio. And then they look at how much debt that you have to determine how much house you can actually afford. If you have a tremendous amount of debt, that's going to minimize the amount of house that you can afford. If you have very minimal debt, that's going to maximize the amount of house you can afford. I've had people come to me where they make $900 a month and they want 100% financing on a $400,000 house. So you can get 100% financing, but unfortunately your income doesn't validate you to get a $400,000 house. So there are some additional requirements, but you basically get a favorable interest rate and you're eligible for 100% financing.
Okay, cool. That's it's a really great benefit. So something that I myself doesn't always understand, but did not always understand, but there's two parts to the VA loan. There's the bank who's going to give you an approval for the loan, but there's also the guarantee side of it, of VA, where they're going to guarantee you, if I'm not mistaken, a certain amount. Doesn't mean that the bank itself will approve you for that amount. Explain those two things and how they're separate from each other.
Yeah. So basically, you have the bank, and the bank is going to basically maintain servicing on that loan. which means they're going to collect the monthly payment and they're going to, handle all the things regarding your homeowner's insurance being paid when it's due, your property taxes being paid, because all of that is included in the monthly payment. Veterans, they get an honorable discharge. They get something called a certificate of eligibility, and they can go to va.gov, and they can use their DD-214, which is their discharge document. Every military personnel that gets discharged, they get a DD-214. And it basically gives a little snapshot of their overall, VA experience and VA records. But using that DD-214, you can go to va.gov and apply for your certificate of eligibility. Your certificate of eligibility is going to have a guaranteed dollar amount on there as far as what your military service allows you to qualify for. But ultimately, even though the VA does that, each bank has their own various provisions and overlays as to what they will approve you for. So that's something that you want to be aware of. I have people come to me with their DD-214, and I can help them get their certificate of eligibility if needed here at First Horizon Bank. But most banks are able to do that for them, to assist them to get that certificate of eligibility so that they can apply for VA financing. Without that certificate of eligibility, you are unable to move forward on a home purchase contract using VA financing. So that certificate of eligibility is very important. If you don't have it, you at least need to have your DD-214, which is your military discharge document.
Cool. So basically, just being a veteran, just leaving the military, that doesn't automatically qualify, because that document you talk about will also let you know if you actually qualify for the benefit of the VA loan. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Makes sense. All right.
Yeah, most veterans will qualify. There are very few times that I've seen someone with a honorable discharge not qualify for the VA loan as it relates to getting the certificate of eligibility. Now, the bank has overlays to say, hey, they want you to have a 620 credit score, a 640 credit score, a 600 credit score. The bank can have their own personal stipulations as to what they require for them to lend you money. VA has their provisions, but the bank that you're applying for financing may have some overlay provisions as well that can supersede the information as far as what you're getting from the VA. I've had people come to me with a 540 credit score with their certificate of eligibility, but no bank in America is typically going to give you financing with a 540 credit score, even though you have this certificate of eligibility. You still have to credit, income, and debt ratio qualify through most financial institutions across America when it comes to exercising your eligibility for a VA loan.
Okay, cool. What are some myths about VA loans that you hear all the time that is simply not true?
Well, the biggest myth, which is pretty much what I've referenced, is people feel because you're a veteran, you automatically qualify for 100% financing. They don't look into their credit, their employment, their income, their debt ratio. So that's probably the biggest myth. That, all you have to do is have your certificate of eligibility from the VA that shows you're eligible for a VA home loan. But you have to understand, the VA is guaranteeing that money through the Department of Veterans Administration. They're guaranteeing that money, but the bank is actually the ones lending the money.
Right.
And you're going to make the monthly payment to the bank. So the bank is allowed to have their own overlays and their own provisions as to what they determine you would need in order for you to qualify. Okay. So make sure you're able to understand the difference between the two, that DD-214 and that certificate of eligibility doesn't qualify or guarantee you financing just alone, because it just doesn't make sense to approve someone for a $500,000 house and their monthly take-home pay is only $900 a month. So,
yeah, right. I with that.
You're not going to be able to make the monthly payment
right
on a consistent basis and paid on time. So that creates a lending risk. And those scenarios typically result in the loan and the property going into foreclosure because the customer did not adequately qualify under the terms and agreements that are needed for the bank's financing.
Okay. Another question. Some sellers believe that VA loans are harder to close. From a lender perspective, is that actually true?
That's actually not true. So the type of government loans out there, you have VA for veterans, you have FHA, which stands for the Federal Housing Administration, and then you have USDA, which is United States Department of Agriculture, which is financing for rural housing areas. Those are areas kind of like on the outskirts of a city, like Cordova has some USDA areas. Riverdale, Hacks Cross area towards Mississippi, they have some USDA areas. But there are three government loan types: USDA, FHA, and VA. Now, because these funds are guaranteed by the government, they're actually easier to qualify. They typically have some type of insurance added on to them. Like FHA has mortgage insurance premium. So FHA is going to add 1.75% of the loan amount to the loan to insure that loan in case it goes into foreclosure. So they have insurances that are added on, even though the financing is more flexible and more liberal. They allow you to have certain collections. Like FHA, for instance, they don't care about medical collections, and FHA does not care about charge-offs, whereas conventional loans, they do. VA loans don't have mortgage insurance premium, but they do have something called a VA funding fee. But the VA funding fee, it is added on to the loan. Okay. So these type of provisions help insure the loan in case it goes into foreclosure. And because these types of loans have a various type of insurance added on top of them, it allows the bank to have more flexibility to the terms of lending, where they won't look so heavily on medical collections. They won't look so heavily on charge-offs. They won't look so heavily on 30-day lates or 60-day lates. Now, I'm not saying they don't matter, but I'm saying they don't matter as much compared to regular conventional financing through Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. So in my opinion, a VA loan is actually easier to qualify for than a regular conventional loan. Now, VA appraisals and FHA appraisals are more stringent, which means when the appraiser goes out to the home, they're going to care more about rotten wood, peeling paint, various defects to the home, because that home is the collateral for the loan. So a VA appraisal and a FHA appraisal is going to be done a little bit more stringent than a conventional appraisal. Conventional appraisals will basically ignore peeling paint and rotten wood, and you can just move on with the transaction. But a VA loan and a FHA loan will not. They will require those items to be remedied and repaired before you can close on the loan. But as far as a credit perspective, it is my opinion from 30 years of experience in mortgage banking that the FHA loan and the VA loan are easier to obtain approval than the conventional loan.
Okay. Well, again, in some sense, they're just looking out for the buyers. They're looking for themselves as well, but put a buyer in a home that is already got paints chipping, windows crack, that doesn't put the buyer in a good place starting off. So that's some of the reasons I think why they do some of that as well, as looking out for their own interests. So, yeah. So I got two more questions for you.
And what we're trying to do with financing is the goal is to get the client or the borrower approved for home financing, but not just approved. We want you to be able to obtain the home loan and stay in the home.
Stay in the home.
So there's certain metrics that we use and we've been using for years to determine if the probability of you paying your payment on time comfortably and you being able to maintain the ability to make that payment. We don't want to set you up for failure. So that's one of the key things that we look at, is to try to set you up for success so that you can purchase the property, maintain the property, and keep the property.
Okay, yeah, that make a whole lot of sense. Totally. So 2 more questions for you. What are the first steps that a veteran should take if they're thinking about buying a home, say within the next 6 to 12 months?
So the first thing they should do if they want to be extremely proactive is obtain their DD 214. That's Delta 214, their DD 214. And then they want to go on to va.gov and request their certificate of eligibility. That way they know for certain they're eligible for a VA loan and they're eligible for VA financing. Then from that point, they want to get with the lender. First Horizon Bank, one of the preferred lenders in Memphis and the state of Tennessee. We're a $100 billion bank. We basically bank 1 out of every 3 adults in the state of Tennessee. So we maintain about a 33% market share for the state of Tennessee for the amount of customers that bank with us. But you want to obtain banking approval. It does not make any sense to get your certificate of eligibility and go out and start looking for homes, because you may find a home at a price range that you do not qualify for. So you want to obtain a pre-qualification mortgage approval letter. That way you know for sure what you qualify for.
Right.
The letter will have a number on it, say 350,000. You get that letter from the bank and you know you can buy any property as long as it's 350 or lower. That way, when you get out and look for a home, you know you have a check already prepared from the bank to offer you financing, and it has a ceiling amount, hypothetically 350, and then you can go out and look for a home. It makes no sense to go out and look for homes at 450,000 when your income and your debt ratio only qualifies you for 250.
Right.
And that creates an element of extreme disappointment. When you get out with your wife and your children and you're taking them around to look at homes and you get them all excited and enthusiastic about looking at homes, and you're looking, but you have no clue what you qualify for. So that can create some major, major disappointment for yourself as well as your family.
Yeah.
So I always recommend getting pre-approved first before you get out to start looking for a home.
Yeah, that is true. That's something that I do talk to my buyers about. And sometimes they don't take it the right way, but you got to explain to them, listen, I'm trying to help you, because in a sense with me, you're going to look at something, then later on you find out you can't buy it because it's hard to come down, but it's easy to go up. Because once you see that house with the granite countertops and it's hard to get that vision out of your head and then realize, no, I have to go buy a home with just a butcher, whatever. So it's hard. It's hard to bring your thinking down when you've already seen that. So definitely pre-approval is really important.
There's a lot of professionals involved in buying a home. You have the appraiser, you have the mortgage banker, you have the realtor representing the buyer, the realtor representing the seller, you have the closing attorney, and you don't want to get all these people involved on a transaction that you can't qualify for.
Right.
And it just becomes a waste of time for a lot of people involved, and a lot of disappointment, a lot of frustration. So one key note to take away from this, please get pre-approved before you go out to start looking for a home, because sometimes that banker can tell you, hey, if you work on this, this, and this, now you can qualify for that $450,000 home. They can give you suggestions and recommendations to put you in the price range that you want to be in, to give you more peace of mind.
Yeah, definitely. All right. And last question. What are financial mistakes buyers should avoid while preparing for a mortgage?
So financial mistakes is this. One of the main things is going to be your credit score and your debt ratio. So you want to maintain a trajectory of your credit score going up when you're in the market to buy a home, which means you don't want to have your credit pulled a lot and you don't want to abuse your credit. One example of abusing your credit is if you have a credit card with a $5,000 limit, you have a balance of $1,800, and you all of a sudden you're getting ready to buy a home and you max that balance from $1,800 up to $5,000. Now you're at the limit of your credit card, and that's going to drop your score. So you don't want to do that. The second thing is debt. You want to stay away from acquiring any new debt if you can. If you have at least 3 trade lines on your credit report that have been open for 24 months, that's more than enough credit to qualify to purchase a home. If you don't have 3 trade lines, that's the only time that I would recommend opening up new credit, because you may or may not have sufficient experience in trade lines of credit to qualify. So you want to stay away from opening new credit, because all the new debt has to be factored into your debt ratio. And once it's factored into your debt ratio, it can lower the amount of home that you can actually qualify for.
Okay. And I did say
So
one
yes, stay away from abusing your credit score and stay away from obtaining a lot of new debt, because that's going to put you in a restrictive bracket of how much home that you can qualify for. If you keep a great credit score and keep a low debt ratio, you're going to qualify for more homes, more housing. It's going to just give you much more flexibility.
Okay. And I said one more question, but I do have one last one. If there's somebody right now who see this now or later on, and they're like, I don't know if I can qualify. I don't know. I'm scared. What would you tell them?
Okay. So I'm going to say bad credit is not a death sentence. I want you to really hear me when I say that. Life happens to all of us. We may have someone that passed away in a funeral. You know, your company leaves Memphis, you're laid off, you're unemployed, car accident, divorce, all types of things can happen. But there's so many ways nowadays to remedy your credit, to put your credit back in position for you to be able to purchase a home. So keep a frame of mind that's optimistic, but you want to seek as many financial literacy opportunities as possible, just like this one. So you can learn the do's and don'ts, so you can learn what your options are, and so you can learn what to do to put yourself in position to getting exactly what you want, which is to purchase a home and purchase a home in a certain price range of your desire.
Okay. Hey, perfect. So don't be scared. Like I usually tell my clients sometimes, when you apply and you're not sure, once you apply, then you're gonna get the information, and now you're going to know. If you're good, credit's good enough, you can move forward. Go ahead and move forward. If not, you will know what you need to do so that way you can get the home 6 months, 12 months down the road. So that's what I usually tell them. Go ahead.
I got one thing I want to say. Throughout my decades of doing this, I've had several clients that come to me in February that didn't get approved, but they listened to direction and they came back to me in July and we got them approved. So the only way that you can get on the right course of action to know how to position yourself for home ownership is to go ahead and make an application with a reputable lender, a reputable bank that you like and you trust. Let them do the application. If you don't get approved, no big deal. They can give you direction to say, okay, it's March. You can't get approved right now, but if you do this, this, and this, by the time we get to the fall, you should be in position with your credit score and your lower debt ratio for you to be able to qualify. Don't automatically assume that you know what to do to purchase a home. I've had so many people say, well, Mr. Martin, I want to wait until I pay this off, you may not have to pay that off. So you may be doing some things that may not be necessary. Right. Like for instance, medical collections. Medical collections do not matter on FHA loans. So you may be holding on from doing a mortgage to buy a house because you want to pay off all your medical collections when FHA does not care about medical collections. So go with a trusted lender, someone you feel comfortable with, apply. If you don't get approved, remember, bad credit is not a death sentence. They can point you in the right direction. And hopefully within a few months, as long as your credit situation is not extreme, within a few months, you could get approved to qualify and you could purchase a home.
All right, man. Listen, thank you very much. I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to do this with me. Again, thank you for your service. It's been a pleasure working with you all these years, man. We're going to keep going. We're going to give people information, educate folks. That way they can become homeowners, start building equity, and start having a legacy and stuff from here on out. So, if nothing else, your last word. If not, thank you very much and have a wonderful weekend, man.
Thank you all very much. God bless and take care.
All right, bye-bye. All right, so that was Kelvin Martin with First Horizon Bank. Not only that, he's also a Marine veteran. So he knows a lot about the FHA, not FHA, but the VA, because he's been in that system for a very long time, but he knows anything across the mortgage world. So don't be scared. Reach out, give me a call. I'll get in touch with him. And again, like I always say, that's one of my preferred lenders I use, but there's nothing that say you have to use the lender that I use. Your goal is to get yourself pre-approved, get ready with whoever you want to. I'm not convinced you to use one bank. I'm convinced you to just go ahead, but I'm trying to go ahead and see where you stand. All right. Once again, thank you guys very much. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. And again, I'll see you next Friday for another Fact Friday. Not sure what it's going to be yet, but I think I'm going to have somebody from the fitness world to give us some other tips on keep going on your journey towards being healthy. All right. Thank you very much and have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.